Hey everybody, I am Debbie from MadameStitch, and I am here today with my good friend Helen of Sunflower Cottage Crochet. Say hello, Helen. Glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me, sweetheart.
I am so glad to have Helen in my collaborative 2024 Granny Stitch sampler blanket. Um, this isn't your first one, is it? I can't remember. This is terrible.
No, not with you. I did the
Right.
first one that you did. That was a collaboration with Claire for me, Claire Makery.
Yes.
But last year I was kind of going through a little bit of a mental transition, so I missed last year's Cal with you. But I'm back for this year.
I am so glad you're back because it's just fabulous to have you in this particular collaborative blanket. All right. So we're not here for them to listen to me talk. They want to hear you talk about. Just tell us a little bit about you and Sunflower Cottage Crochet so they know who you are.
Okay, well, I'm Helen. I'm the designer behind Sunflower Cottage Crochet. And what I tend to design most at the moment, actually, my people tend to more like blankets, but I like to do a little bit of everything. So I've got a few garments and, the usual housewares and just a little bit of everything, a nice bit of fun. I don't like to be restricted when I design. Sometimes people just design one thing and then you hear so many designers say, I wish I could do this just for a change, like putting an odd shawl or whatever. And I don't want to restrict myself like that.
No, I hear that. I like to do whatever the spirit moves me to do. Like if I'm decorating, I want to do a pillow, or if I'm out and about, I want to do a scarf or a cowl. So it's just that sort of thing. So I appreciate that a lot. All right. Now, I think everyone has gathered from listening to you talk that you don't live in the United States. No.
I live
And
in the North.
we love that. We love that. So you don't have to give us your address, but tell us a little bit about where you live in England.
Okay. Well, I live in the Northeast. At the moment, we're about 71 miles to be exact, south of Edinburgh. So we're just about on the border where William Wallace used to come along and, whatever else. We actually, not too far from our new house, we've just moved to the middle of the countryside. Sorry, I keep looking out because on the border of our front garden, we have cows and sheep. That's how rural we have just gone. It's absolutely amazing.
Yay! I love it.
There's a little marker, actually, I was just saying, where King Malcolm III of Scotland came down to try and take Alnwick Castle, which is the big town near us. If you might recognise the name Alnwick Castle, it's where Harry Potter learnt to fly his broomstick. It's that castle. So
Nice.
King Malcolm III came down and marched along with his army, and then we beat him and he died on the spot with his son. So there's a little marker there to mark where he died. And it's just full of history and gorgeousness.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Fabulous.
Well, I love the fact that you have wildlife, livestock right outside your front door. I think that's fantastic. Yeah. And we've just gotten a little history from the countryside of England. I love it. All right, a little bonus. All right, now onto your square. First, I would love for you to talk about, we all know that the blanket is Granny Stitch centric, right? But where did you get your inspiration for it? The square that you made, which I love the title, Granny's in the Frame. It's fabulous. Where you got your inspiration and what were some of the design elements that you added to the Granny Stitch to make it a total square?
Well, most of the time when I come up with my designs, I like to sit down and think about it. Usually when I'm making another design up while I'm crocheting, I'm not one of these people where when you crochet, you forget everything and you just relax and chill. I'm a thinker when I crochet. So usually when I'm crocheting one design, I'm thinking of the next one. However, it was a bit different with your square, and I don't know why. But I just sat down with a hook and a yarn and I just started crocheting and waited to see what came out. So
That is awesome. That is
you,
really awesome.
usually I'm a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Usually there's a little bit more to my designs. I've got a little bit more flourish in them than this particular square, but I quite actually like the simplicity of this square. And I think just the little edging around the outside just really frames the granny stitch, which is where the name came from, granny's.
Granny's in the frame. I love it. Yeah, I love the simplicity of the traditional granny square, which is why I've stuck with it over the years, because I think it offers so many design possibilities, and you've created one of those. So you really only have two elements. The center is that granny stitch, really a traditional granny square, and then you framed it with, what is the stitch that you framed it with?
Just half double crochets. So the bobbly type edging that stands out, that's a camel stitch or a half double crochet in a third loop. And I do have a photograph to show you where that third loop is. Really easy, but it's such a gorgeous design element and you can do so much with it. I think most of my patterns have that in it somewhere.
I know, mine do too. When I discovered it, I'm going, I hate surface crochet with a passion. As a crocheter, I just hate it. It doesn't make it wrong. It's just something I don't really like to do. But when I discovered that half double crochet in the third loop, it opened up a world of, okay, here's my surface crochet, but I don't have to do it like that. And I don't think a lot of people know that the camel stitch is actually that half double crochet in the third loop. So it's great that you've introduced it that way so that people make that association.
Yeah, and it's
All right,
really nice.
anything?
Oh, sorry. And I
Oh, go
was just
ahead.
going to say, and with the basic stitches like your half double crochets, your single crochets, it's easy to overlook just how beautiful the variations of them can be. They're so essential,
Exactly.
but they're so underestimated because people want the flourish and, you know, they want the intricacies and the gorgeousness of all these fancy stitch combinations, don't they? But
But
sometimes
for
less is more, and I hope I've proved that with this square.
No, I think you did it in spades. I think it's fantastic. All right. So, one of the things that I love to leave everybody with are tips to make it easier to make their square, or tips that you, as you were working it, you found, all right, let's make sure everybody knows this so that their square comes out looking like you, like the sample, like yours does. So, do you
Mhm.
have any tips for people as they're making their square?
Yes. So the first thing, as with all granny squares, that I would recommend is remember to turn at the beginning of every round, just so that your square doesn't then start slanting and looking a little bit misshapen, because it can ruin your project when you don't feel like it sits quite right. And the other thing, I did have another thing and it's just completely left me head. Sorry, Debbie.
No, I think I have it right here for you, and that is we're making sure that all of the squares in the blanket are about the same size, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, that was the
So,
other thing. Yes. So I've designed this blanket to be super simple. So if you're a beginner crocheter, this one is a good one to start with if you haven't yet started your blanket, because gauge does not matter. As long as you're happy with how your stitches are sitting and the gaps aren't too big, which means the tension's too big. As long as you're happy with it, I've written this pattern so you just work the granny stitch section until it's wide enough, and then you do your camel stitch, and then you add your 4 inches of half double crochet. So literally after this cal, if you want to practice it, you can use any yarn weight, so you can pick up a skein out of your scrap box if you want to. You can use any yarn weight, any hook size, and you can get a 12-inch square from the pattern that I've written. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
I think that's a great way to look at it. And I don't remember exactly, but I think you have after the granny stitch section, you say your square should measure this big across, so that they have an idea of how big to make that section, so that there's still room for that border. Because if you get that granny stitch section too big, you don't really have room for the frame. So we need to make sure that that is in there. All right, now I want to tell everybody, because I know that you wanted to have this ready, and it will be at some point. Behind you is your blanket version made with grannies in the frame only. So at some point you will have a blanket made with this particular square in your shops, right?
Yes, that's right. Unfortunately, with us just moving, and then my pooch is a bit poorly, so mentally I haven't really had the bandwidth to put it in the shops. But I just wanted to make sure that I got the video tutorials recorded, and I haven't been able to do that in time to release the blanket alongside the square. But I have decided that it will be one of the patterns that I release in my 12 Days of Christmas event at the beginning of December. So it will still be a free PDF for people. But you just have to wait a few extra weeks, that's all.
Fantastic. Well, anything else you want to say about your square before we leave?
No, I think that just about covers it. Really?
We did it. We did it. Oh my gosh. I cannot thank you enough for being a part of this blanket. It's such a special event for me every year, and to have my friends partake in it is just fantastic. So thank you for providing your square, and thank you for being here today. And I'm just going to remind everybody that they need to go check out sunflowercottagecrochet.com, because you've got tons of other things that they can get in trouble with when it comes to crochet, and you have events coming up to end the year. So thank you, Helen.
No, thank you for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to work with you, Debbie.
My pleasure as well. All right, I'm going to call it a day for right now. Make sure you visit her website, and this will be posted on YouTube. So make sure you look at it for more tips and tricks from MadameStitch and Sunflower Cottage Crochet. Happy crocheting, everybody.